What would you say is your most successful achievement as mayor? And maybe what is one thing that you would say was maybe your least successful moment as mayor of San Francisco?
Well, I would definitely say that my most successful is leading the city during the most difficult times, including a global pandemic and the tragic death of Ed Lee when he was mayor, and stepping into that role. And time after time, we've had to encounter various situations, and in every instance, I've stepped up, I've led the city, and we saved lives. And so I'm very proud of my track record of what we've been able to do. I think the biggest challenge, of course, has been as sometimes when a national crisis like fentanyl happens, having the capacity and being able to deconstruct laws a lot faster. That was a bit of a challenge. The Board of Supervisors was definitely a real challenge. And I think that not being able to do that faster is one of the biggest issues that we encountered, because oftentimes people wanted to see us with the same response that we had for COVID.
Sure.
But we had an emergency declaration to make a decision a lot faster and to move and to and really do some remarkable things that led to San Francisco having one of the lowest death rates anywhere in the country. But at the same time, I know that people wanted to see that same kind of action during everything else. And unfortunately, the policies and the way bureaucracy works when it's not operating under an emergency declaration, it just can't move that fast.
You know, I remember an interview after, just like almost immediately after election, and you had a lot of cameras around you, a lot of people being pretty aggressive to get your response. Mm-hmm. And I think you did an incredible job, but it was, I could read a lot of emotion underneath the surface there. And I guess, like, how much does it hurt, you know, seeing this result, knowing that you feel like you have made enough progress that now it would be the kind of time to really turn the corner?
Well, I don't feel like it hurts. I think it's more of, I think people see it that way, but it really isn't. Like, I've been able to lead this city for 6.5 years. And I have been able to get this city to where it is finally starting to take, root. And so some of the things that we've been working on are finally working.
Yeah, well, Mark Jackson helped build the Warriors, but he didn't get to win the championships with the Warriors.
Yeah,
so I mean, and he sounds pretty bitter sometimes on those telecasts.
Yeah, and part of it is, this office is bigger than one person.
Right. It's
not just about me. Mm-hmm. It's about the work. When you come in, when you accept the responsibility of these roles, you have to be prepared, because whether it was someone that, won an election or, term limits, right, eventually you were going to leave.
Well, if you had won the election, I believe you would have been the longest serving mayor in San Francisco in roughly 100 years. Mm-hmm. I did see in a recent story that you said your only regret as mayor was eliminating a constituent services division within the mayor's office. Is that actually true? Do you not have any other regrets?
Well, I don't live life regretting things that I can't change. Okay. I just wanted, one of the things that neighborhood services did was they had a direct connection to community. Mm-hmm. So when I was campaigning, for example, and I'd go out and I talk to people about all the things that I'm doing or things that they are praising that's happening in the city, they didn't always attribute it to me because they didn't know that we had done it. And I think that's been the toughest challenge, is having a bunch of people take credit for the work you've done, having a bunch of people say that you're not doing anything, mm-hmm, and then needing to explain to people what I've done and how that relates to what they care about.
I have been told that actually departments were frustrated because they were like, does Mayor Reed even know this is happening within, mm-hmm, our branch of San Francisco government? Mm-hmm. And that there could have been a bottleneck at times of having the kind of give and take access to you, mm-hmm, and whether or not you were hands-on enough with these departments. And this is a criticism, I'm not for me, but
see, and then the other side of that,
Department of Public Health,
let's talk about that, because the flip side of that is, I'm out in the Tenderloin a lot, and I'm out there in the middle of the night with an organization called Code Tenderloin.
Right.
And they are offering people treatment on demand.
Right.
I'm out there with Positive Direction Equal Change, talking to people who we're trying to convince to accept treatment and to go into recovery. I'm out there with Public Works, and we're cleaning the streets. I go without the cameras. I go without even warning. When they're doing encampment resolutions, I'm talking to the actual people on the ground.
Right. I remember when Chesa Boudin, the former district attorney, was recalled, people were saying this could actually be harmful to Mayor Breed's reelection chances because he will not be there as a punching bag. I'm curious, when you look back at the work of Chesa Boudin, who was recalled, would you have done anything different in dealing with him or when dealing with the police department and mobilizing them in a different way?
Well, I tried to work with the former district attorney. To be very clear, I was not a supporter of the recall, but I was definitely, vocal in some of my challenges with him, and it was quite frustrating. But nevertheless, what happened happened. And I always, in doing my job, it has always been about trying to work with people to resolve issues. And one of the biggest challenges we had, and let's just talk about like fentanyl, because this is not just a San Francisco problem. This has impacted major American cities all over this country. It has been one of the most deadliest drugs we've encountered. So when I had to make hard decisions, I had to completely change how we were doing things before the pandemic. We were focused on reforming our police department, criminal justice reforms, things that we have not abandoned, but we had to pivot and make adjustments so that accountability was also a part of the conversation. The biggest issue we had is accountability.
Right.
And so I made hard decisions. I made the hard decision to arrest dealers, to arrest users with the goals of getting them treatment. I made the hard decision to put Proposition F on the ballot that says if you're not in treatment and you suffer from addiction, you can't get money from the city. Right. I made the hard decision to work with the federal government and the state government to help build our capacity because we did not have the capacity to do this work in order to combat it. I made the hard decision to put Proposition E on the ballot so that we have surveillance technology, drone technology. We had the tools necessary. And what we are seeing from all of this work is the difference in the number of overdose deaths going down. And more importantly, from last year, 46% more people than last year have accepted treatment. But let me be very clear. This was not just a law enforcement response. I work very closely with the recovery community, right. People who themselves have suffered from addiction in this city, people I grew up with, right. Who have suffered from addiction in this city. They have been at the forefront of helping us to address this because harm reduction wasn't the only solution. Abstinence-based treatment, investing the kinds of resources to provide shelter and wraparound support services, that all made an impact on the work that we're doing. And I'm really proud of that. So I go back to criticism is easy, right? But actually putting together the pieces of the puzzle to be effective and do the job and to have the kinds of results that we're finally starting to see, that's hard work.
You mentioned your lived experience, the relationships you've had as someone who grew up in San Francisco, born and raised. The next mayor, Daniel Lurie, also born and raised, but comes from a little bit different background, upbringing in San Francisco. I'm curious, we've written a lot, or I should say I've written a lot. I think you made fun of me asking if I was writing your book one time, because it was about your life and how it dictates the way that you have led San Francisco as mayor. And I'm curious how you see Daniel Lurie's experiences shaping the way he will try to lead San Francisco, and if you think he might be in for a rude awakening, considering not having been in the belly of the beast here in City Hall.
Yeah, I really don't want to speculate on what he will or won't do because I have no idea. The race is over, the voters made their decision, and ultimately I want this city to succeed. And I think that I have set this city up for success. I have done everything I can to, again, deconstruct bureaucracy in order to stop being a city of no and become a city of yes.
What's one rule you would change if you could just snap your fingers like that, that's still on the books right now? If you could just like say, I'm going to just change one thing about the way City Hall works.
Oh, the one thing is the ability to hire and fire department heads directly.
Sounds like some people need to go still.
Well, I'm not going to say that. I just like the ability to not go through an unelected commission to make those decisions. Like what you have to do to hire somebody or to fire someone when the buck stops with you, that should never happen. The mayor should be able to make those decisions because the mayor is accountable for those decisions because the mayor is elected by the people and expected to deliver. But here's the thing. What happens in San Francisco, because it's bureaucracy, and you have members of the Board of Supervisors, you have the mayor, everyone's trying to stand out. Everyone's trying to make their mark.
Knife fight in a phone booth, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Is it a knife fight in a phone booth?
It can be, yes.
There's more brass knuckles? I don't know.
Yes. I mean, look, I'd rather face-to-face, take them one-on-one and see the best who win, but nevertheless, it is what it is. But what happens is a person is trying to make their mark and they introduce one piece of legislation. Like, I'll just use taxes, for example.
Sure.
So you have, people who want to put certain taxes, and it sounds great. It's for homeless, it's for childcare, it's for libraries, it's for this, it's for that. But that money has to come somewhere.
Right.
And after being on mayor for the past 6.5 years, 14, I think it increased maybe 15, 16 taxes. And eventually, the person who's the homeowner getting that bill,
right,
or the business is saying, you know what? I don't need this because right across the water, I could pay less. Like you impact the economy by, it's like death of 1,000 cuts, right, because someone's trying to make their mark, but then people still expect something to be delivered.
I'm curious if what you're saying is that San Francisco has a shaky foundation for its bureaucracy because of all these different complex rules that are competing against one another.
I don't think we have a shaky foundation.
Okay.
I just think that there are layers of bureaucracy over the decades that have unintended consequences. If I had my way, I'd take our city charter, I'd put it in Chat GPT, whatever, T. Am I saying it right?
It sounds like you're a user, yeah.
And then I type up a few things of what we need, spit it out, and then everything goes away.
Right.
Except the things that we actually need.
So we do need a clean slate.
We need to clean up. Charter reform is important.
I know you're obviously very proud of the work you've done as mayor, and it does very much sound like you feel like San Francisco's on the cusp of what some would call a comeback or really turning the corner, or however you want to phrase it. But if there is any unfinished business that you feel like you would have really wanted to go after in another term, what would it have been?
Well, first of all, there's always going to be unfinished business.
Right.
But the soccer stadium is something I really wanted to finish. Today I signed the lease for the training facility for Bay FC, and it just sets San Francisco up as the best place to build Bay FC's final arena. I would have loved to have participated in that and made that happen. Also, housing, now that we have changes to state law, the obstruction will not be as problematic as it's been. And more importantly, there's a rezoning map that needs to be done. I also wanted to get into cleaning up the issues with Dreamkeeper Initiative, because I'm really proud of that program and the work that they've done. And I think that there's been some challenges that need to be fixed, but I do think it's a vital part of, really why we've been able to transform San Francisco and make it a better place.
You were mayor during the first presidency of Trump. What do you see? How was that experience for you, and how do you see San Francisco dealing with Trump with all the other ideas that they're floating out there with the Project 2025 and other ideas?
San Francisco will be a target. I just hope that we are not, but unfortunately we have been in the past and we probably will be moving forward. And I think that we won't have the luxury to just focus on San Francisco. We have to think about some of the things that I did, set up hotlines, made investments in organizations that serve our immigrant communities to ensure that they are supported, protected, and they have resources. Did that take up a lot of your time dealing with the Trump administration back then? I wouldn't say that it took up a lot of my time, but it did take up time. We, used whatever tools we had in order to combat some of the challenges. We got very creative about how we hold on to our resources.
What do you think about the way that many in kind of the bigger figures in tech have kind of, in San Francisco, have kind of cozied up to Trump?
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about all of this, you know, like, there comes a time where, do you like have enough money? Like, I just, you know, I know business people are in the business of making money, but that's the thing that just sometimes bother me. There's a lot of wealthy people, and I know they made their money. I just hope that they use their money for the right things. I have worked as closely as I could with anyone who has businesses here in San Francisco, anyone that wanted to work with me. And my door has always been open, and in some cases, we've done some great work together. And in other cases, people have chosen to leave the city, but quietly, many of them have come back because this is where people want to be. And, you know, over the past year and a half, so many of them have come back. They just have not been as loud as when they left.
I know this is a weird question. If you're not going to be mayor, are you at least happy it's not Aaron Peskin and Mark Farrell?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that.
Okay, all right.
That's, you know, listen, the election is over.
Yeah.
You know.
So the election's over. A lot of people are speculating about what's the next chapter for you. There's speculation that you may go into some kind of corporate world. You just appointed Stephen Sherrill for District 2 Supervisor. He has some connections to Michael Bloomberg, who's been supportive of you.
Let's be very clear. I have my own connections to Mike Bloomberg.
Yes.
Before I even met
Yes.
Stephen.
Very clearly.
So
yes.
From day one, Mike Bloomberg has been not just, you know, a mentor, he's been a friend. You know, he reached out to me when I became mayor. And San Francisco is a city that he absolutely loves. And over the years, we developed a really great relationship. And so whenever I've needed advice or support to understand, and this is kind of a mayor's thing all over the country and even all over the world. So many of us, we depend on one another for advice, for an understanding, for how we can get things done. What did you do when this happened? And that is really what has built upon our close relationship, along with a relationship I share with so many mayors around the world. And Mike Bloomberg has been very instrumental in trying to invest in mayors and invest in cities because he knows that it makes us stronger. He could have just chosen to focus on the United States, but he really has used his understanding of what he's done as mayor of New York to help make a difference for other mayors around the world. And I really respect and appreciate him for all he's done.
Are you going to work with him in the future then?
To be very, very clear, I have not had any conversations with anyone.
Okay.
I haven't gotten any job offers yet, but as soon as I leave office, I will open those doors to have conversations.
You haven't got a job offer yet. Have you had an interview?
I haven't had any job offers. I hadn't had any interviews.
Okay.
I am not able to go and start, you know, looking for a job until I leave office.
Right.
But I want to be clear. I don't know what I want to do. I have to decide what I want to do. My whole life has been public service, community. This has been my whole life. And I've done things based on what I care about. And I'm a very cause-driven person. I care about housing. I care about the success of the next generation. I care about young people and investments in young people. So once I decide what I want to do, then I will make the decision of who I will connect with and decide what I want to do, you know, with whom. And then I'm sure there'll be other people who will be reaching out to me and asking, you know, what I want to do or what they can do or how. I mean, we'll see. But I'm putting out all options.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mayor Breed.
Thank you.